I am Andrew Leduc,
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get into
So the point being is good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen. And we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between...
here? Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
It's Tuesday night, and this is Divots and Pivots. I am Andrew Leduc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard, and as always, Bud Copeland is joining me as we break down the aftermath of the Ryder Cup from this past weekend. Did the U.S. lose it? Did Europe win it? We'll get into all of that and whose fault it is in the end, because, we can't walk away from a Tuesday night show without throwing blame on somebody, so there'll be a fair share of blame pie going out, I think, because why not? That's entertaining, right?
First of all, blame pie sounds like a great band name. God, that's awful. I was out in the sun all day. I was at a U.S. Amateur 4-ball qualifier earlier today out at Country Club of Wilbraham. And second, don't lump me in with your negative blame game slinging.
Budweiser. Don't try to be all positive now. I got the text messages all weekend. We were both negative all weekend.
No, I was defeated. I wasn't negative.
Oh,
okay. There's a difference.
Okay.
Sure. And then all of a sudden Sunday comes around and there was a little bit of hope. Speaking of hope, I just mentioned I was at a U.S. Amateur 4-ball qualifier earlier today. And my partner and I are standing on the ninth tee, our 18th hole of the day. And he pulls up the live scoring on his phone and he just says, "All right, leaders right now in the clubhouse 7 under." So we all we need is a -10 on this hole, and we're good. It was a rough day out there for Boudreaux and the gang. We just couldn't get off the tee, and it seemed like. So if you're not familiar with the U.S. Amateur 4-ball, it's a USGA event that replaced the pub links. The pub links or public links from 1922 until 2014 was the only way for folks who didn't belong to a private country club to get any kind of national competition. And then in 1979, USGA opened up the amateurs to basically anybody who's got the handicap to qualify. And then they were like, why do we have this separate public links one when, and they had like these exceptions for it. Like if you played on a college team at the time, then, you could still go qualify for the pub links. There was some weird stuff. So they got rid of it. I think the most famous guys to win it would be Brandt Snedeker and Trevor Immelman.
Nice.
And
some classics right there.
Listen, and Immelman obviously went on to win the Masters and then now took over Nick Faldo's spot in the booth. And so when they got rid of the pub links, they replaced it with a 4-ball. And in light of the Ryder Cup and all the 4-ball action and the foursomes and these team games, I got to say that I had a ton of fun today. It was a completely different mentality going out there than, me alone trying to slay dragons like I did in the first half of the summer. And I will say this: next year, no Mass Open, no Mass Amateur. Instead, we're going to do this 4-ball again and the Mass 4-ball.
Nice.
It was really cool because, for example, on the first hole, we teed off on 10, par 3. And I popped up basically a gap wedge and left it a little short, chipped it up there to a couple feet. And my partner had a putt, from about 14, 15 feet out for birdie. And it was weird because he's like, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and putt out? That way I can make a run at this for birdie." And I was like, "But you're away, And then it dawned on me again, it's whatever team is away. It's not the player. So there were little quirky things like that today. But it also seemed that we looked at the scorecard afterwards. And when one of us had a bad hole, the other one had a bad hole as well. And so it was one of those things we just couldn't bail each other out enough to even get anything going. We were even for most of the day, and then we just had a couple of bad holes strung together. And then the guys we played with were a couple of good guys. I think they shot 3 under, and they were, there's a bunch of people who shot 3 under. We were not one of them. We did not finish last, but we absolutely did kind of, break the seal when it comes to the 4-ball action. 4 balls we saw this past weekend, it can be a lot of fun, but foursomes, alternate shot, that is
team golf.
That's exactly why we got our asses handed to us, amongst other reasons, which we'll dig into in a moment.
Well, let's start with the the idea of team golf, because I think that I personally, my opening thought here is that I think U.S. lost it, 2 weeks ago. Because I don't think the U.S. I think here's what I saw. The second U.S. started rallying a comeback and started making this interesting was when they finally had a rallying point to rally around together as a team and support each other in the whole Hatgate shenanigans and all of that stuff.
You want to go there right now? All right.
I'm not going straight into that yet, because the point I want to make is that they needed that to rally around each other and play like a team and put this all together. Europe was like a team from the start.
So you want to talk about? Hold on. You want to talk about the team?
I want to talk about U.S. coming into it as the wrong mentality.
Hold on. I just want to make sure we're not talking about like team golf in the sense of like partner tournaments, 4 balls.
No, I mean the attitude that was the mentality that came into it. What was that?
You just want to go right after Team USA, which I'm here for it. I told you I've got my notes ready.
It's where my opening thought wants to be, because I think they lost it long before the Ryder Cup even started this week.
They did.
And this you heard it on the broadcast constantly.
Why isn't one of our names Brad?
I know.
Sorry,
right?
Go ahead. The podcast.
It would have been the bud.
Bunch of stoners tune in thinking they're getting something else.
Exactly.
Okay, so
they would stick around.
Tell me your theory on when did we lose this Ryder Cup, and then because I do agree with you, we lost it before it started, but I think for different reasons.
So for this, you're right, different reasons, but for this specific reason here, what I'm going with is that stop making your faces at me. What I'm going with is that the U.S. needed that rallying point to start playing with the same type of attitude that Europe came out on the first tee on Friday with. And that's because Europe came in with the mentality of, we're going to go out there and we are going to crush these guys. We don't care if we're friends with them. We're going to crush them. Try to hit us with a right hook. We're going to hit them with 2 lefts and an uppercut like that. And that's how Europe played the whole week. The U.S. team felt like they just went out there and were playing a round of golf and that was it. But they didn't have that killer instinct until all of a sudden the fans started jarring them in a way that they got under their skin, and then they start supporting each other with the hat stuff. And then all of a sudden, what do you know? Patrick Cantlay does what he does to finish out Saturday, and then they come out singles, with a little fire under their ass. It was just too much, too little, too late.
Well, thanks for stealing the cliche I was going for. Too little, too late. If you take 3 steps back, and we lost by 5,
yes,
right
in the end,
that's 3 matches.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 28. So the point I'm trying to make is it was not, 5 is a good ass kicking. It's not unprecedented, but it's a good solid ass kicking.
Mm-hmm.
We lost this, but I mean, again, what I was about to say is 3 matches. That's all it takes. Three halves that instead of, 4 or 5 halves that we instead flip to full points, or, 3 losses that we just actually flip,
and you can point to at least 2. You can point to at least 2 matches that Europe was able to tie and have on the 18th hole.
Well, that was the entire second half of day 1, right? When it looked like Team USA was going to kind of maybe show up in the 4 balls and kind of make it a little bit like, save our dignity a little bit. Nope, we get blanked for the first time ever. Not a single match won on the first day. We didn't get blanked in the scoring. Half matches get a half a point. But we lost this Ryder Cup the minute it was scheduled. And there was a 1 month or more gap in competition for these players. That's what showed. I'll tell you what, you're right that the hat thing was a serendipitous kind of rumor that got floated out there, and it sounded good. I mean, God, in my Saturday game, we were all talking. I took the cheese. I was like, "Did you see this shit about Cantlay and the blah blah blah?"
And it makes sense that it was ran with. Like, I totally get it.
Because multiple things can be true at the same time. He could actually probably have espoused those opinions before about wanting to get paid for this because, they're the talent X, Y, and Z. I have some thoughts around that too. But he denied all that. He's like, no. He's like, it doesn't fit. And by the way, check it out. Rory didn't wear his Ryder Cup hat for a number of years because it didn't fit. And he even said it. He's like, I would, and it was right before I think Whistling Straits, and they came out and said, we'll make you one that fits, to work with us here. It was like one of those weird things of like, and then is this a detail that's been overlooked for how many years?
Instead he got his hair cut.
I know it looks good. I do love that on Sunday a lot of guys came out without hats. Like you said, it became a thing. It became kind of a rallying cry. But no,
They needed it.
they lost this the minute that we bowed to the NFL and decided let's just get out of their way for a month. And that's what happened. That's why we're wrapping up the Tour Championship at the end of August, for before Labor Day, so that we can get out of the way of the NFL. We're not competing for eyeballs at all. So we don't, as an organization, we'll see, because they already have the 2025 dates set for Bethpage Black. It's going to be at the end of September again, like the 25th through the 28th or whatever the dates are. Yep. But it's the end of September again. And next year, in 2024, the Tour Championship is already set, and it's the end of August again. So we still haven't set the 25 schedule. We still don't know what's going on with Liv and the PIF conversations that are going to absolutely, dictate a lot of what happens in 2025. Sure. And my plea and my beg would be, do something to fill that gap between the end of the Tour Championship and the Ryder Cup. Maybe it's this, because I've also said, if Liv as an entity, as a thing, they want to try to keep it alive, even if they tweak the system, like get rid of the shotgun start. We were there; it's kind of cool, but then it gets confusing, and then I just get rid of the shotgun start.
It was very confusing to try to find a group.
You got music playing everywhere all the time anyways. Just have guys going off all day. You get 12, 13, 14 hours of live entertainment on site. You get more people, more merch, everything. You get the day where you kind of come and go with the competition, because I get the premise of it all, but the shotgun start sucks. But anyways, Liv. Maybe Liv becomes the new fall series. That's what we do. And for that first month, how about this? Put the Ryder Cup guys just out there as a team, or or three teams. You got captains and earners or something like that. Maybe that gets restructured. Shrink that down. Maybe put 3 fall swing events in there, but then incentivize the Ryder Cup guys and just say, if you're going to be on the team, you agree to play in these events. And, obviously whatever money you make is yours, but maybe the Ryder Cup says whatever money you make will match, or maybe there is another one of those. If you win one of these, you gotta give a little bit. Apparently we're going to have some more resources and capital to play with. Sure. But that's the problem. Rust versus rest. You see it in college football, where the conference championship is in December 4th, and then when whoever gets to their bowl game at the end of the month or at the beginning of January, they look like a completely different team. Sometimes they are, that these players sitting out these games, but that's when we lost it. And so the attitude thing is a whole different story. I think we were ill prepared. I don't know why we weren't there for 2 weeks, or at least 10 days. I get the guys
just take jet lag. Just take jet lag out of the conversation.
God, why was that even?
And you know what? Yeah, they have lives, but their families were there. Like sure, just have the 2-week family vacation, and while you're there, and you're playing some golf, getting ready. Like, what's wrong with that?
Did you see where Steve Stricker's wife wasn't there because she was trying to qualify for the the U.S. senior women's amateur?
Yeah, that's a little different. That is pretty cool. A little different.
Right, but to the point that getting that buy-in, getting on the ground early enough.
Yeah,
and it has nothing to do with the familiarity of the course. We'll talk about the course setup in a second.
Yeah, no, I don't think that was an issue.
But you're right. It took us a day and a half to find the on switch, except for Max Homa. Thank God for Max Roma. I can't believe I doubted him. I was
we talked about that last week, that he might be the highest point getter for Team USA, especially at the. I think he was plus 1,800, which easily was the best value odds available for someone who could do it. And so I hope you made that bet. If you're listening,
I saw the stat. He's like 7-1-1 between the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup. I mean, he's the new guy. He's that dude for USA right now. And I don't care how many majors everybody else has. His record in Ryder Cup, and maybe that's the thing.
Different. This is different than majors. It's a different mentality. It's different the way you approach. It's not even. It's just a whole different way you approach each shot.
Did you see the celebration on the Team Europe bus and the little sing-songy chant that they were doing?
I honestly didn't.
All right.
I couldn't. I had to walk away from the coverage for a day because it was a lot.
I wanted all of it. I like watching their celebration because it's gonna make Bethpage that much sweeter.
Are you surprised Hatton was the last man standing? I did see that.
Not at
night.
All. Not at all.
Didn't shock me at all.
I love also Shane Lowry told a marshal, "You're making more fucking noise than the rest of them." When a marshal was trying to be like, "Stop moving around, please." That's hilarious. I was like, I wouldn't mess with
That's
those
funny.
boys. Shane Lowry's
no.
dad was a professional. He's like a legend in rugby. I wouldn't mess with any of those guys.
Yeah.
15 minutes in, we're going to go with our first camp reference.
Let's do it.
So on the bus, first of all, pause. Back in the day, I worked at the camp I worked at was 2 4-week sessions, right? So
Okay.
we would get there as a staff, and for 8 days it's orientation, and then in the middle of those 8 days we have a day off, which is always used to be debaucherous. If you've ever seen Wet Hot American Summer, they didn't pull that out of thin air. That's a lot of just hyperbolized cliche, but it's not untrue, so to speak.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we used to do back in the day is, in between that first group of campers leaving and the second group coming in, is we used to go bowling. Like, we would rent out this entire bowling alley in Lewiston, Auburn. I think it was called Spare Time. And we would load up these coach buses with all the staff, and we would take them down and let them go bowling. They'd get hammered. This is the old days. This is like 20 some odd years ago, right? This is like way back. But no, everybody would get hammered on the way home. Everybody's like singing camp songs, especially these college kids who just, for the first time ever, they've done something crazy like this and they're being cheesy. So everybody's singing these camp songs. Well, these drunk fuckers with the Ryder Cup are on this bus, and you can tell they're all like getting escorted back to the hotel or wherever they were going. And they're chanting this song, and it went, USA is terrified and Europe's on fire. And they were just singing it over. Yeah, USA is terrified and Europe's on fire.
I was saying, does the flow sound better in their accent? Because that doesn't sound like it's going to flow to me.
It absolutely does. They because I don't even, no matter what, the Europeans all end up having this British sounding accent when they're singing a little bit.
At least the
Brits sound like Americans when they actually sing, but that's neither here nor there. So they're chanting this, and they're like drinking beer out of the cup. And I'm thinking to myself, and even Rory said it, this is the pinnacle of golf. This is, majors are one thing, but this is kind of that, I think if you had to ask people, which would you rather do, win a Ryder Cup or win a major, they're all going to say win a major.
Of course.
But this is what separates those elite from, the levels in between. Because all those guys we saw, on Team Europe, it was something like 9 majors between the people playing on there. I think there's like 14 majors won between all of Team USA, something like that. So these are the elite of the elite. And this is when you have to get that chip on your shoulder for it to mean something, a la Hatgate. So there's criticism that USA came out flat. And we just talked about that between the gap in play. And hey, is it coincidental that Max Homa goes out and plays the Fortinet, and then he's the only one that comes out sharp?
It is not coincidence.
Him and JT. JT was actually hitting the ball well. It's just that, we run into
he just couldn't putt. But putting was his issue all year.
So it was a perfect storm of what we just talked about, the lag, the gap. But at the same time, in everybody said it, Zach Johnson, which he's getting raked over the coals a little hard, especially for the Spieth thing. Did you see him convince Spieth to switch clubs on 16?
I missed that. No.
So this is something that he's getting raked over the coals for pretty good. He stepped in. So 16 was a beautiful one of the best finishing kind of setups of a Ryder Cup in my adult life, or even childhood for that matter. The way that they had essentially like a par 3.5.
Was that the drivable one with the water on the right side?
Water on the right. Collis,
these beautiful moments.
It was awesome. Yes. So Spieth is standing there, and I want to say this was on Saturday afternoon. We've got a little mow going, and all of a sudden, Zach Johnson walks over because Spieth's talking to JT, like, do I hit the driver? Do I hit the 3-wood? These guys can carry their 3-wood 285, 290 downhill, especially Rory stock 3-wood's like 305 apparently.
Rom hit it over the green.
Yeah. And so Johnson, though, like the only time he did it, anything, because the only person who can give advice to any of these players is either your partner or the captain. No vice captains can go out there and talk. They can drive the buggies around and hand out waters, but they're not allowed to like give advice.
Yeah.
And so Zach Johnson walks in and he like, no, hit the 3, convinces them. Spieth dumps it in the water. The match just goes to shit. And there goes that kind of like that extra oomph we needed. Now I'll say this. It's golf, though. That's golf. What if Spieth would have knocked that to 6 feet? Then we would have been like, see, that's what, a captain steps in.
Yeah.
So for people who are raking him over the coals for making a call and then the shot didn't work out, it's like,
that's
all right.
That's every sport it happens. I'm not going to kill him for
talk
that.
Talk to Pete Carroll about goal line offense and see if he has some opinions. So there was a little bit of that kind of, unfair, blah blah blah. But anyway, Zach Johnson even said it. We all said Europe played really fucking good. Like they played really, really good. When you got Victor Hovland holes out on the first hole, like on the green, chipping it up and over, and then people are just burying putts from everywhere. Fitzy had that run where he went like hard eagle birdie, like, and they go up, and then to see Brooksy and Scotty just get handled the way they did, it was alternate shot. We got to figure something out about the foursomes. And also but before we talk about the foursomes, the setup, they did exactly what they said they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. They did not make it to where you could it was a bombing and it was not a wedge fest. There was a lot of mid and long irons. It was a lot of, driving issues for the Americans.
That rough was tough. That rough, you had to really power it out of that rough. That was crazy, but you nailed it, because that's the thing. I'm going to sit here and bitch about what Team USA did and their mentality and how they didn't show up and whatnot. But even if they did show up, I'm not sure they win anyways, because Europe's on fire. And they got some of the hottest golfers in the world. I mean, between Rory and Rahm and, like you said, Hovland, I mean, and Fitzy, they're stacked. That team was stacked, not only stacked on paper coming in, but then the way they showed up and played, I don't think there was any beating them. Like, they just had it. It was just one of those weeks.
It's because they weren't rusty. It's because they had momentum going. If all 12 of our guys would have been at Wentworth or something like that, which maybe that's part of this strategic alliance thing where there's a clause in there that says the 12, because if the DP World Tour is going to have a Rolex event, right before they host it 2 weeks ahead, which is a smart move. How cool. I think it would be cool to kind of have all the Americans there too. But the flip to that is PGA Tour can do the same fucking thing.
Well,
and they do. They had the Fortinet, and these guys chose not to play. And I think that is going to be something you see different. So
what if you do something? And so say if the guys are going to continue to not want to play a tournament like ahead of the Ryder Cup like that. Say next year they have that same attitude where they just choose not to play the Fortinet. Just say it's the Fortinet again. How can we pivot to do something to try to get them up? Hear me out here. This is probably a stupid, crazy idea, whatever. But why not say the TGIL takes off a little bit and has some success this first year? What if you have like a little indoor event with Team USA so that there's fans close by there that get behind them? It's almost like a here's the team like rally, like high school style fucking pep rally basically, but they're out there just having fun inside. Like it's different, but they're able to swing. They're having fun. They're feeling the crowd behind them. They're doing it together. Like, is that all it's going to take, or do they need to play in a full normal tournament to be ready?
It's got to be a full normal tournament, and I'll actually do you one better. Dan Rappaport from over at Barstool had a great suggestion about how to incorporate more match play, because right now we got we got the WGC. Well, it used to be the WGC. I don't even know the match plays on this. Is the match play where? Actually, I'm curious real quick. Is it on? But match play. Let's see here. Match play.
Is it still just Zurich? No, what's the
Zurich is teams. I don't even think the match play is.
That's right. Zurich's team. Speaking of Dan Rappaport, though, does Dan Rappaport not shop the center stores of grocery stores? Did you see he was all like, "Oh, so glad to be back in the USA." He posted a picture of one of those mini pickles. He's like, "So glad to be back in the USA, but I'm going to miss these pickles. They were everywhere in Rome." That's like, funny. You can just get them for like $5 in a jar at any grocery store, right? Like, it's just,
no. Like, everything tastes better in Rome. Come on, Dan. But his suggestion for bringing the match play back into a real competitive atmosphere was to make the Tour Championship match play, to do one of a couple things. Either you do 2 days of stroke and then cut it down to 16 guys, and then have them go 18 18 in the morning, 18 in the afternoon, Saturday, Sunday for $18 million. That would be, that would be electric, and it would be
I
just
don't
different.
mind that instead
Or
of
or just
having,
extend it to 32 guys instead of 30, and then you just do a full field of 32, and you do a match play for the title. I think that would not only get them in that kind of match play mentality. You could absolutely, the Ryder Cup guys could have some practice rounds together in that format. But again, if they're going to be off for a month afterwards, what are we going to do for that month? And I do think that you're going to see these guys playing in the fall swing events, or they'll make it enticing somehow. Speaking of the events, there is one going on this week. We're not getting away from the Ryder Cup, but the Sanderson Farms.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't even looked at it at all.
Well, it's down to it's always been kind of an opposite field event ever since, like the 60s or 70s. It was opposite the Masters for a long time. It's been opposite just about everything that we have on the schedule, and now it kind of has this standalone spot in the fall series.
Yeah,
but Country Club of Jackson, and the names that are down there, guys that we have on our radar, radar. Whew, not a lot of sleep. Kiz is down there, and Kiz right now is 209th in the FedEx Cup, and that's why these guys are playing this fall. Remember, the top 50 are locked in for next year, and that's the problem. Like Max Homa didn't have to go play in Fortinet because he's already locked in for signature events, top 50. He did it to defend and to kind of maybe stay sharp. But Kiz there, Harry Higgs, Jimmy Walker, Joel Damon, Keith Mitchell, Akshay, David Lipsky, Sam Bennett, and I think, and here's the thing, Ludwig Aberg was in the field.
By the way, did you hear the proper way to say his last name on the broadcast?
It's like Aubert.
It's Aubert. I was shocked. It took me a hot minute to figure out who they were talking about. I went, oh my god, it's Aberg. Sorry, continue.
I don't know. I don't know if I can say Aubert though.
Ludwig Aubert. I don't know. I can do it. I'm cool with it. Ludwig Aubert.
So anyways, this thing's going on down there. There is golf. If you are looking to bet, if you're looking to get into some of the underdog life, you can do it with Sanderson Farms. I'm assuming. I know DraftKings and the other crew, but
you can, yes.
But our friends over at Underdog are phenomenal, and the snake draft is fun. And I love that we have this week. And we got a couple more weeks of sports betting, with the PGA Tour, the fall swing, because these guys are either get on the FedEx Cup points, to improve their status. If they're outside the 150, they want to get inside the 125 to maybe have their full exemption versus just conditional status. Or these guys are trying to creep up to be in that, either in that top 50 for the signature events, or to be in the top 10 outside of the 50. The swing 10 is what they're calling it, or it's like the next 10 in the swing 5 or some shit like that, basically. After for these signature events, once the field has their first 50 in the automatic qualifiers, then it's like, all right, the next 10 top point earners from a certain point forward, and then like the top 5. It's crazy. I don't know. I kind of get it and I kind of understand it, but like I said, it's been a long day, so that's why they're there. That's why I brought it up. It's not really that much fun unless you're gambling on it, because it's not that big of a tournament. But this is another one of those. Maybe they do make it bigger, because I don't fucking know, man. Tee times for the Sanderson Farms. I just want to find out if Ludwig Aberg is on this. So do you want to pay respects to Underdog while I try to find out if Ludwig's in the field, and then we'll come back and get back to the Ryder Cup, because I've got a big question for you.
Yes, let's do that while Bud, finds his answer. Let's hear from Underdog. We'll be right back.
Jesus.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever, and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
Did you find your answer, bud?
Teeing off at 1:50 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, playing with Adams, your favorite Adam Svensson and my boy Akshay Bhatia. I'm gonna butcher that. So
I know.
it
I was
is
just looking at that
Mr.
group.
Ludwig Aubert. I like it. And
it's a nice group.
We forget those guys don't get paid for the Ryder Cup. They get a ton of swag, great experience, expenses paid. I'm sure there's other things. They do apparently get like $200,000 to a charity of their choice, which I it's always nice to do that. But I mean, so he went over there and had this experience. He's still got to come back and grind it out. He's not, he won on the DP World Tour. But he still has to kind of climb that ladder to get his status on the PGA Tour, which it's going to come quick. If anybody watched this guy, he was a buzzsaw. Him and Victor Hovland, day one, it was kind of like, what in the heavenly hell are we watching? Victor Hovland, just in general, was just a bad man. If you saw the statistics of their top six versus our top six, it wasn't even close. Our guys they fought hard, but it was let's see, what was it, day one? I just pulled this up real quick. Friday matches, let's see here. In the morning, Rahm and Hatton 4-3 over Scheffler and Burns. And how big of a freaking whiff was Sam Burns as a captain's pick? The guys I played with today were from Vermont, and they were huge Keegan guys. Huge. That's all they wanted to talk about too. Well,
Keegan called into the Sports Hub on, I think it was Friday, randomly, just to the afternoon to the midday show. Oh no, at the afternoon show, he just randomly called in because he listens to them all the time. He called in like a regular caller, and they asked him, "Is like, do you wish you were there?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, of course." Like he
was probably gracious about it. Like
exactly, he was professional about it, but you could hear it in his voice that he was like, "I feel like I could have did it. I feel like I could be there right now and be handling my own."
Could have did it. I love that. So Rahm and Hatton 4-3 over Scheffler and Burns. Ludwig Aubert and Hovland 4-3 over Homa and Harmon. The lone mark on Homa's record, which he got out of the way earlier.
Yeah, Aubert went. I think it was 2-2 on the weekend.
Lowry and Straka 2-1 on Fowler and Morikawa, and then McIlroy and Fleetwood take Schauffele and Cantlay. And for Cantlay, really, that was, what did he do? 2-2, 2-2, 0-2 in the foursomes, 1-0 in the four ball, and then he won his singles match. The foursomes format is going to be, and it used to be the other way around. USA actually used to handle the foursomes traditionally, but that was like way back in the day. That script has been flipped to where we are much more dangerous in four ball than they are in foursomes. So let me ask you this: let's get to the heart of the matter, because I think you and I do not see eye to eye. Now,
let's do it.
Who should be the next Ryder Cup captain? And I found something out interesting here. I mean, I guess it's basically just done by committee, like the PGA of America Executive Committee or whatever, those 22 board members that we've talked about previously. They pick the next captain, but let's be serious. It's probably whoever the player committee kind of says, this is our guy. And, so there's been a lot of, on the European side, there's like a player committee and there's the RNA representative. They have the similar setup with a little Ryder Cup committee. Oh, it's like the past three captains and somebody else.
That
makes somebody sense. Else. That's who does it for them. And there's talk of Luke Donald like locking it in. He's like one of the winningest European players in modern time. He obviously did his job here, stepping in at the last minute because Henrik Stenson and Ian Poulter. I don't see those live guys in the Ryder Cup. Europe is going to be a little more impacted legacy wise and captaincy wise, than we are. But for the Americans, who do you think should be tapped to kind of? I'm not going to say turn this around. And the people who think that the Ryder Cup is broken, I'll talk about that later. But who
I don't think the Ryder Cup's broken. No.
I'm so sick of hearing it.
I don't think that's far. That's an exaggeration. That's going too far. The Ryder Cup's not broken. Like I said, I think this was just what this came down to for the U.S. was two things. It was the way they prepared, and it was the fact that Europe was a buzzsaw. Those are the two reasons.
And even if we would have prepared a little bit more, there's a kind of a saying that home field advantage is 3.5 points. So take away home field advantage and we lose by 1.5 points, which
Sure.
Again, we didn't play overwhelmingly terribly. They just had the course set up and it took us a while to catch up and kind of adjust and also to start making some putts. We were missing everything so low.
Oh, it was so frustrating to see it because they had the line every time. It wasn't that they were reading the putts wrong. They weren't hitting them confidently.
Weak and low.
Yeah.
And Colin Montgomery, legend for the Ryder Cup Europe, and he was undefeated in singles in life, said that he was the captain of like the celebrity Ryder Cup earlier in the week, said an extra 6 inches. But an extra 6 inches when you're putting in match play because you're not, you're trying to make everything. It's hole by hole, especially if the hole's on the line, does good to leave it short. So high and hard, extra 6 inches.
Did you see his commercial, by the way, with him checking into the hotel that they aired like 1 million times? You see that?
I don't think I did.
Oh, yeah, it was good.
I don't think I was paying attention.
I believe it was. I'm thinking back. I'm pretty sure it was Colin Montgomery.
So on the European side, they might stick with Luke Donald. If not, I think they've got a pretty decent little bench with, Francesco Molinari. Even though he's still young, I would say there's a new model or mold of Ryder Cup captain. Zach Johnson's not exactly old. He's not a spring chicken, but he's not old. So Luke Donald might stick around. I could see the reintroduction of some of these live guys eventually down the road for them, especially like Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter,
but
and Henrik Stenson again. So who do you think for the Americans should be taking the helm for it'll be, I don't know when they're going to announce because we have the President's Cup next. Yes. So I don't know when they're going to announce this, if they wait till after the President's Cup out of respect for that and the process and the players to keep everything focused, or if they're
I would imagine
this captain's going to have about a year to really, a year, maybe a year and a half to kind of do his job. So who do you think it should be?
You know who I want it to be? I'm not sure.
Oh, here we go.
You know who I want it to be? I want it to be Kevin Kisner. I think he would be, because here's what I think about Kevin Kisner. Like I said, I think the mentality going into it is what was off. We know Kevin Kisner is a match play, like he kills it. It's like he's got the mentality for it. And what's also key about it is that the field and the tour and guys on other tour, they all know this. They respect him for it. Like everybody always asks a question at the start of these match play events, like the random ones with the WGCs that aren't going to be anymore, but we'll see what all looks. Everyone's always talking about Kevin Kisner and how he always, you never talk about him, but he always shows up in the end and he's there because he can just do it. I think he has the respect of the guys to be able to instill some kind of correct way of thinking entering it. Like I'm not sure he's got the personality to. Here's the thing: I don't know if he has the big personality to kind of lead the charge per se. So maybe he would be a better co-captain, but I think he needs to be involved.
I think he's going to be a vice captain at some point in his life. The problem with Kiz is he's never been on a Ryder Cup, so I mean it's one of those things too. I don't think that should be a disqualifying factor. Again, maybe something unique like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that people would say, no, you're an idiot. How can you captain something? But then again, I say, how many coaches in the NFL never actually played a snap? Mike, who's the guy down in Miami? Mike McDaniels.
Oh, Mike McDaniels. Yeah, he was the ball boy in Denver. Have you seen those pictures of him when he was the ball boy in Denver?
I am slowly but surely becoming a huge Mike McDaniels, not Dolphins fan, but like he's funny. Yeah, he's funny. And he's like, it's like I'm a nerd and I made it. So what?
Totally.
Kisner's got two.
When he was a ball boy in Denver, he looks like what's his name from was it Sugar Ray? He had like the spiky hair, the earrings, like the choke. Like he just looked. He looked like that. Yeah, he looked like
so
that.
Bad. So Kiz has had two. I kind of like your style there, just because it is outside the box a little bit. I think I can see him as a vice captain again for match play and mentality and that side, literally the killer instinct. And he's pretty good. He's pretty good with the flat stick, and so maybe he can give some advice on the putting. President's Cup in 2017 and 2022, both of those winning teams. But then again, the President's Cup is starting out much like the Ryder Cup did for the first 50 years, where the U.S. just dominates everything. So I could see Kisner getting back in there, but Kisner also probably has thoughts of maybe trying to get on a Ryder Cup team
So
before
that's
it's
the
all
thing.
said and done. He's only 39. He could have a Lucas
Yeah.
Glover type of kind of resurrection where he either puts himself in position or just plays really, really well and gets up and kind of does a Ricky thing, which
Yep.
Ricky, I think that's just unfortunate. You get over there, you get sick, and you have to sit out for 3 days. I think that or 2 days. I think that's unfortunate. I don't think you can fault Zach Johnson for picking Ricky based on that performance.
Yeah, but and then you can't blame, with those being the circumstances, you can't really blame him for then not performing on his singles necessarily.
So we'll get into the Big Cat controversy or get Big Cat conversation here in a second, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I want it to be Tiger. I think it's time to be Tiger. I think that with the role that he's playing now, sitting on the board, essentially for lack of a better phrase, he's on the board of directors for the PGA. Now he was that new player representative that they just created his seat out of thin air. I mean, when he passes, I'm sure somebody else, but they've created another seat and they said Tiger's going to fill it. Rory came out and said he's kind of taking charge in that room now. From the players' perspective, they feel like they have a good voice and they're well represented. He has done the President's Cup. Remember, he was playing captain, I want to say in 2019. It wouldn't be unprecedented either to have an old guy maybe playing captain on a Ryder Cup if his game was in form. I mean, I don't think he's ever going to get that level of consistency. But I could definitely think that it's time, and here's why. He's got a past history with Bethpage Black winning the U.S. Open there when it was hosted for the first time on a public course.
That is very true, yes.
It's kind of like you look around, and again, I like your creative pitch on Kisner, and for the right reasons. Match play, mentality. I think he would be a great vice captain because he doesn't have any of the Ryder Cup experience. Tiger doesn't have a great Ryder Cup record, but then again, there's nobody smarter in the game of golf than Tiger Woods. That he's just the biggest brain there is, and everybody talks about it. These players when they talk about whether they played a practice round with them or they were able to just talk to him for 5 minutes on the putting green, sometimes he is the end all be all, and I think he's going to be a captain on his terms. Given some recent events in life, I think he might not do the whole maybe next time, fellas. It's one of those things. Let's do it now or never. We kind of need him. I think it would be cliche. I think people are going to shy away from him as a pick because it's kind of cliche. But Jack Nicklaus was a Ryder Cup captain a couple of times. I don't think Tiger's going to be a one and done. There's people out there saying like, why not just put him in that role? He is Captain America. He again wasn't the best record. But when it comes to mental toughness and killer instinct, nobody did it better than him. He was Mamba mentality on the golf course, And so I think it should be him. I think it's going to be him. But if it's not him, I could also see maybe. So the mentality thing. They were very businesslike and analytical with their approach. I'm sure our guys were crunching numbers too, maybe just not in as productive of a manner. Or hell, maybe it just didn't shake out.
You're saying Europe was businesslike
but I go back to the campy feel on that bus at the end where all that passion was released. The American version of that, because like you said, it sounds a lot better with their accents. The American version of that is almost this kind of YOLO, fun, living free mentality. And we saw that at Whistling Straits. We were kicking ass and whooping it up and having fun with it. It wasn't like, in their face. It was chugging beers and fist pumping and high fiving. Freddie Couples, I think, is in a position to maybe take a swing at this Ryder Cup. I think he's done. I would
love that.
Well, first of all, happy birthday, Fred Couples. Today is his birthday, and I know he's listening. But he is. Let me see. Let me get down onto the old wiki page here because under his USA or Team America, the results in World Golf Senior results. Come on now, U.S. National Team appearances. Here we go. President's Cup, non-playing captain in 2013, non-playing captain in 2011, non-playing captain in 2009. So he did, he did this thing where he played on the first 1, 2, 3, played on the first 3, winning, President's Cup, winning all those. He won in 2005, and then he had 3 It's time. I mean, I think it's time.
I could totally see that.
He was on the 89 Ryder Cup team. He was on the 91 winning team, the 93 winning team, the 95 losing, and 97 losing. So I mean, he's got the chops, he's got the gravitas, and he is very close with Tiger as well. So you talk about where does Big Cat stand when it comes to Team USA? I think he's got to be a vice captain as well. I'm going to be curious to find out as things get kind of leaked out. What role did he play, if any at all, in the communications and the strategizing this time around? Again, going back to, is his focus just on this PGA Tour deal and making sure that everything is done, on the up and up? So I think it's going to be Tiger. I think it should be Tiger. Freddie would be my backup.
See, I prefer the idea of Freddie Couples being the captain and Tiger being a vice captain or whatever, or even if he's just part of the, the planning in the room when planning before leaving, and then that's it. Well, not leaving next year because of Bethpage, but you know what I mean. Because I think Fred has a better chance of setting the tone that's needed than Tiger does. You're not wrong. Tiger, strategy wise, yes. Competitive edge wise, yes. Like, he's got all that. I'm not sure Tiger sets the right tone though, because when Tiger gets into that competitive mode, it's tunnel vision. He's alone. It's like we've all seen it when he's in that zone. He doesn't talk to anybody. He's very much solo minded when he's competitive, and I'm not sure maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these last couple of years of playing with his son has loosened him up a bit, and maybe he can blend those two sides of golf. Because I think part of the Ryder Cup is you do have to have competitive edge, but have a loose, fun feeling as well. Like, I think that allows for the natural human adrenaline to blend with the competitiveness. I'm not sure Tiger sets the tone. I think he has the respect, obviously, of all the players that would be on there. I think they would all listen to him. But I'm not sure it would be a loose enough atmosphere to allow the guys to lean into their adrenaline, to lean into that loose side of the competitive drive that they had. I think Freddie Couples sets that tone more, but Tiger should 100% be there as a vice captain, because you're right. I don't think his strategy is matched, especially for Bethpage. Like, the way he navigated Bethpage, I know it's, what was that back in like 2006? Oh no, 2009. When the hell was it? 2002. Geez, even further than I thought. Was it really that long ago? Not 2002. U.S. Open Bethpage. That's
U.S. Opens 2002 U.S. Open won by Tiger Woods, only player to break par that year.
Okay, so it was that far ago. Jeez.
They did play the 2009 U.S. Open there.
That's the one I was thinking of then. Okay. I was gonna say
that was
the Rocco Media. That was the Rocco Media year, the playoff of Rocco on Monday.
Right? That was the 2008 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines. But truth gun to your head, who won that 2009 Bethpage Black U.S. Open? Lucas Glover. How about that?
That's right. Lucas Glover did win that. That's right. Okay, so I have my years a little mixed up, but still, Tiger has a history with Bethpage, and like you said, when it comes to any course, I think his strategy and the way he can plan around a golf course is unmatched. So I think he's still useful. Like I said, I just don't think he sets the proper tone a Ryder Cup needs as the captain.
You're wrong. 2019, the PGA Championship was there as well, and they're in the PGA of America runs that. They run the Ryder Cup from the U.S. side. Brooksy won that 2019 PGA. I think we'll see Brooksy again. I was way off with my thoughts on Brooksy's performance, but then again, that 9-7 shellacking that they took at the hands of Hovland, and was that the Hovland Albert or whatever?
Yeah, that's just when that's an example of it just starting to move downhill, and it just gets away from him. And that's what happened with the Pats this weekend. It just, with Mac Jones specifically, it just got away from him, and then it kept going. Like, there was just no stopping it once it hit a certain point. And I think that's what happened with that pairing that day. It just, Hovland and Albert just absolutely put their foots on their neck when they had the opportunity, and they didn't fight back, unfortunately.
Yeah, Koepka played 3 matches, went 1-1-1, 1.5 points. Max Homa, again, he was the only one to play all 5 matches. He was the only one that played 4 to net besides Justin Thomas, who played 4 matches. I think that, we haven't even talked about some of the more fun stuff. Brooksy threw some shade at John Rahm saying, I could have done, so
I know,
for the folks who maybe didn't watch John Rahm, Brooks on want to say it was the end of day one was just, cruising. They were going, they were on their way to getting a point, and then out of nowhere, John Rahm, sinks an eagle on 18, and the putt basically hit the back of the cup, popped up in the air, and dropped. Well, I guess on the way from like 16 green to 17 tee or 17 green to 18 tee, whatever it was, John Rahm was pissed off, and he like slammed his fist against the scoreboard. Yes. So Brooks tries to take a dig at him and called him childlike, all sorts of shit. And to me, I'm thinking to myself, like, that's just bad. Like, come on. After a loss,
it's lazy.
After a loss, yeah, you're getting railroaded, and that's when you could see the frustration coming through.
Yeah.
So Brooksy kind of saying that right there. I think that we're gonna, it's not the last we're gonna see of him. Wyndham Clark was another bright spot, I think, for us, for Team USA moving forward. Brian Harmon had a nice little 2-2 showing, even though I don't think we're going to see him again.
Probably not, because I'm not sure he replicates the year he had this year with obviously with the Open win. That's I think he's a one and done major winner, and I think there's nothing wrong with that.
So there was the thing about Brooksy, but then did you see Caddygate Saturday night? Saturday night, did you hear about this or did you see it? You had to have noticed it. They were talking about it on the coverage on Sunday with Rory and Joe Lacava.
Yeah, with Lacava. Yeah, of course I saw that video. And Rory, or was it Rory that actually yelled it? That say, oh no, I think it was Shane Lowry as he was pushing Rory away. I think it was Shane Lowry said, "Don't worry, he still just misses Phil," or something like that. It's like he's just mad he doesn't have Phil. He said something along those lines, and I thought it was just hilarious. I love good entertainment.
If you didn't watch it at the end of the day on Saturday, when Patrick Cantlay was going, he blacked out and he birdied like two of the last three to save our asses, including basically a 40-footer on 18, and everybody was waving their hats around. And Joe Lacava, Tiger's old caddy, who is now Patrick Cantlay's caddy, was waving his hat around and walking around in circles, kind of getting the crowd, either giving it to the crowd or getting the Americans in the crowd fired up. And Rory still had a putt, and he was like kind of walking around, stalking his putt and lining it up. And Joe was wandering into his way, and Rory kind of said something to him like, "Hey, get out of the way."
Yeah.
Rory was in the right. Joe was in the wrong. That said, I don't give a fuck. I'm with Joe, because in that moment, you got to do whatever you can to get your guys going. You got to speak up. If you're getting in, if I'm getting in your way and in your head, Rory, deal with it.
It's the same reason why I'm perfectly okay with the U.S. teams. I think it was Thomas and Spieth specifically playing extra slow. Yeah, they played extra slow. I think it was on Friday on Saturday. They took their time because they knew that. I think they were going. Were they playing against Rahm? I think they were playing against. They knew they wanted to move faster, so they said, "We're going to take our time."
John Rahm also chipped in, I think, 3 or 4 times on the weekend.
He was ice cold.
Yeah, those guys were killers, but it spilled over, I guess, afterwards. Shane Lowry, they're all saying, get out of the way. That's disrespectful. That's rude. Blah blah blah. If this was a normal PGA Tour event, I agree. Caddies, shut up. They are part of the team, and I do think that there's a little bit. They were trying to be a little bit of gamesmanship there by Joe Lacava. I don't think it was disgraceful.
No, he was trying to do exactly what he was just trying to get an edge, get in Rory's head. That's all he was doing.
And he did on the way out. On the way out to the car, Rory was going after Bones, Jim Mackay, who's Phil's old caddy and now is on the bag for Justin Thomas. Yeah. And apparently, word on the street is that Bones is like the nicest human being on the planet. And that's why people are like, why is he yelling at Bones? And then here's the best part.
Well, we saw that in full swing, too. With Jay, we saw a lot of Bones on full swing.
I love Bones. The next morning, the networks and everybody's like, okay, apparently Joe reached out to, there's tweets everywhere, or X's or whatever. And it was on, Joe reached out to Rory. They had a chat this morning, all good. And then after the cup has been clinched, it comes out, Rory's like, nah, we haven't talked. I haven't heard anything from him. And so it's like, what?
Yeah,
what's going on here? It was not a great weekend for golf reporting between the Cantlay Hatgate, which again, that turned out to be completely just overblown horse shit. Then there's the Caddygate that they blow. You don't have to do anything to dress that up either.
So was that, you think that was because I'm trying to think of which side of the media was pushing those, what ended up both of those wrong stories? Were they sensing that US was getting smoked and they were just trying to keep eyes on it?
God, I wish we were that smart to have like guerrilla PR warfare to get our guys
Right.
going. Everything down to, and I
Oh, I'm
can't
not saying
wait.
from the play to get the. I'm saying it's just so that people keep watching, just from our pure rating. Like the media themselves is just we got to keep some stories going here, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I do, because honestly, Sunday I was expecting this thing to be wrapped up by about 9:30. I thought maybe those first 4 guys were just going to go out there, clean up, and we were just going to have like 5 hours of really boring ass golf coverage that means nothing, and that would just be horrible. But Team USA did what they needed to do for the most part up front. Scheffler having that match with Rahm. Scheffler just can't putt. He doesn't have the yips.
Yeah.
He just has he looks like me out there. I mean, he's missing putts that I would miss. How I would miss them. 3-putting on some of these hard greens.
In a vacuum, him having that match with Rahm, especially with how it went back and forth, like in a vacuum, is a great result. You would look at that as a whole and say, hey, we stopped Rahm from getting a full point in singles, which felt like was someone that they were definitely expecting a full point. But unfortunately, with everything else going on and the way the rest of the leaderboard was shaping up, that just turned into a situation where we needed him to get that full point for us, and he didn't, unfortunately.
It was, in the grand scheme of things, we needed a full point, not a half. In the moment, though, like you said, it's like, don't let this guy beat us again. Just kind of hold him at bay. Ty was pretty good there in that scenario. We just needed a couple other those matches to go our way earlier. Yeah. But Scotty Scheffler was a liability this weekend. It turns out Jordan Spieth was kind of a liability, somewhat.
He was all over the place. But are we shocked with the way that course was set up? Spieth had a good year this year because of his scrambling. He still could have hit a fairway to save his life this year, but he did great scrambling, and he was able to make something out of nothing a lot of the times. But this course was not set up in a way where if you missed the fairway, you could make something out of nothing. Like this rough was too hard to get out of. The angles were too precise that you needed to put yourself in position. And so I'm not surprised Spieth was out of position all weekend. That's how he's been all year.
That's his entire career. One of the most famous shots of Jordan Spieth is at the Open Championship in 2016, I think was when he won it. And he essentially was hitting from like the driving range on number 16 over the Titleist truck and this grandstands, and he sticks it to like 10 feet or whatever the hell it was. So Tiger Woods is the one that I keep going back to, and I'm trying to find his. I love that. I'm trying to find his Team USA.
What his record?
We
looked it up last week, didn't we? It's like 13-21. It's bad.
It is bad.
It was like way below 500. I want to say it was like 13-21, 13-22, something like that. Fairly confident in the 13 wins though.
All right. So the Ryder Cup sucked. I'm glad I didn't get up super early Friday and Saturday. I did get up at 5:30 Sunday. I'm glad I did. It was fun to have that little bit of hope for as long as we did.
When it's in Europe, Sunday was shaped up to be perfect because golf all morning, and then we had a nice London NFL game. So 9:30, boom, football's on, and then right into the 1 o'clock. Like Sunday shaped up to be a fantastic sports day. Yeah, it would have been better if US won, but shit, Sunday was great for sports. Golf, football. Like that's perfect. I love that.
I went to the Immersive Arts Center for the Disney experience. It was actually really cute. Cooper,
I'm sure it was pretty cool. Was it like the Sphere?
No, but I'm down. I've been all over that social media. Those rabbit holes. What is Belichick on the hot seat?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not in season, not to be gone in season. But he's on the hot seat to prove something here because it's the numbers are just starting to stack against him that he's struggling, that he's kind of lost his fastball right now. And I do think there's more factors than just him. I don't blame it all on him, but you got to start. You still hit that point as a team and as an organization where you still have to at some point It's just not working anymore, and you got to change something. And at some point, you hit that point, and we'll see what the rest of this year does. But if this year goes even worse than, if they get anywhere less than 7 wins this year, like even if they're hovering around 7 wins this year, then I think the conversation is real. I'm not saying it's going to happen in the offseason, but I think the conversation is a real conversation and a thought that's happening with Bob Kraft.
He's got 2, maybe 3 years left, and here's why. Don Shula finished with 347 wins.
Yes,
Bill Belichick has 330 wins, and
that's
he's
what
also
he
got
wants.
And he's all. That's what the Patriots want. That's what Robert Kraft wants.
I think he does it, but at some point money's going to start to. He's like at some point money's going to start winning out for Bob here.
What money? Where do you think the Patriots are going to be losing? How do you think the Patriots are going to be losing money?
Okay, so maybe not money, but the allure of the Patriots, because we're not going to have those primetime national TV games anymore, and that's what Robert Kraft wants. That's what he wants. He wants the playoff games. He wants those national moments because he wants the world to still see his Patriots as the Patriots. And it's not that way anymore. The further we get away from that, the less patient he's going to be.
I think Bill Belichick is coaching this time next year. I think they get 6 wins this year.
You're probably right.
And I do think that maybe we're gonna see a little bit of give somewhere, because I think that he's gonna get sick of losing, and he's gonna remember what it was like to be a Cleveland Brown and be like, that sucked. We're not going back there, even though he took the Browns to the playoffs.
See, and I do lean to you being right with that. I just think the conversation is going to be a real conversation that's being had. That is for the first time.
Oh, it's already being had.
But this offseason is the first time it will be an acceptable possible solution. I'm not saying it'll happen. I lean more towards your thinking that he will be coaching next year, but I think it's going to become a more real conversation.
You should lean more towards my thinking, but in all fairness, everybody should have a turn being me. Last thing that I'll leave you with, I'm a little concerned about my dogs. They've had slow starts the last 2 weeks. Auburn is a rivalry game. People forget about that because yes, down south, before we had pro teams everywhere, all the colleges had all these different rivalries. There's the Georgia-Florida game, which is like our biggest, just kind of traditional like hate fest. There's the Georgia-Auburn game, which is the Deep South's oldest rivalry, and it's been played for like 126 years or something like that. And then we have Georgia Tech, which is our in-state kind of, clash. But we got Kentucky coming up, and Kentucky is slowly with, Mike Stoops for the last 15 years or whatever it's been, or Mike Stoops, is turning into somewhat of a football school. And with the transfer portal now, they got this kid from Vanderbilt, Ray Davis, and they just ran all the fuck over University of Florida. We just got ran all over by Auburn's quarterback. I'm a little concerned about my dogs this weekend with Kentucky coming up. I don't think they lose, though.
I for your sake, I hope not. I haven't watched enough college football to make a prediction, but I hope.
All right, well, do your homework next time before you show up here without.
Well, now that we don't have the Ryder Cup to focus on and bitch about, then next week I will come prepared for a breakdown of your Georgia Bulldogs.
All right, fair enough. And we both agree that we're just going to keep eating the shit sandwich that is the New England Patriots for the time being.
Well, that's just my daily diet, so yes.
All right, fair enough.
It is what it is. That'll do it for us here on Divots and Pivots. So thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for following the Ryder Cup coverage with us. And we will be back next week to continue the pivot season here on Divots and Pivots. We love you guys and have a great night.